up? It's Dave, it's Duncan, back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new release from Cybergrind band Blind Equation. The band's new album, A Funeral in Purgatory, will be released on July 18th via Prosthetic Records. Okay, so Blind Equation return in 2025 with perhaps their most ambitious release to date. A Funeral in Purgatory is the band's third LP and is the first record to be written with a sizable amount of touring under the band's belt, giving them foresight into what works best in the live environment. The band's main man, James McHenry, explains, "I had a better understanding of how Blind Equation operates as a live band, and this album I feel will give the best experience for our live shows as well." Despite A Funeral in Purgatory covering a lot of life's negative aspects, it is actually overtly positive in message. McHenry described having many low points during the writing period of the record, and that the creative process served as some sort of healing process. This is something the band hopes the listener will also experience when listening to the album. The overarching meaning of the album is that even though we deal with these difficult times in our life, we have to carry on and get through them to reach the better moments. No matter what, life will destroy us time and time again, and many things may never be resolved or have an answer in sight, but we must carry on and do our best to fight against it. The raw emotion in the lyrics is mirrored by McHenry's vocal performance and serves as an openly real and human element in the otherwise electronically dominant record. I was really inspired by the vocal delivery of the first two Slipknot albums, the first Korn record as well, as artists like Life Lover, where the expression is even more over the top. I feel like a lot of artists are afraid to be vulnerable and passionate in their vocals, and being able to overcome that fear has resulted in what I feel is my best work to date. It's an album that explores so many subgenres whilst maintaining a tight and cohesive listening experience throughout. There's truly something for all fans of genre-pushing underground music here. There's shit you can mosh to, dance to, sing along to, and cry to, all in the same project. All songs were written, recorded and produced by James McHenry, then mixed by Anne Rivera and James McHenry. The album was then mastered by Angel Markloyd at Angel Hair Audio. So, we played one of the singles from this on a recent podcast. Mm-hmm. Mainly I threw it in because it was like very different to the rest of them.
Because like those podcasts, for those that are like that, these videos here run long. You have no, like, podcast goes on forever, and there's only 4 songs we can play, so like Dave really goes out his way to try and pick tracks that don't sound alike, to really break up the monotony of me and him just talking shite for 2.5 hours. So
this one was a little bit more left field, and then I think like after you'd heard the track, you were like, "Oh, this was actually pretty good." Thought maybe, okay, let's explore more of this and delve into the world of Cybergrind, Duncan.
Cybergrind.
How was your experience with the world of Cybergrind?
Watch me grind in cyberspace, Dave.
Grind me, Duncan. Grind me.
I mean something else, Dave. I mean something else, and your wife will not be happy about that. So there you go. Although future t-shirt idea, grind me, Duncan, grind me. I'm just gonna say, it's gonna shift units. It's gonna shift them. So I knew nothing about this band. Should surprise no one. They're on Prosthetic Records, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
So now technically they are MNRK.
Yeah, technically.
So yes, technically they're now label mates with bands that you wouldn't expect them to be label mates with. But they were already label mates with bands like the Callous Dead. Well, no, they weren't actually. They were MNRK. So they're now technically label mates with the Callous Dead Boys. What a fucking world we live in, Dave. What a world we live in. So the track we'd listened to on the podcast was a track called Nothing. It's the second track in. It's the first single from their release. And I remember your intro in it basically like hitting all the keywords. Oh yeah, here's it's a bit of Prodigy, it's a bit of the new metal, Slipknot, Korn. You were just like just literally dropping little droplets of awesomeness into peppering it. Just nice, Dave. And I sat down and I listened to it, and I don't know if I knew what I was going to get, but the track was not what I got, like, at all. But actually, it surprised the fuck out of me, because the one thing they never mentioned in here, but having now got the album and seen that Strawberry Hospital guests on this, it totally makes sense. You aware of Strawberry Hospital?
No.
Right, so, like, if you had a synthesizer and was on MySpace back in, like, 2015, 2016, you know Strawberry Hospital, right? You know them. They did a lot of kind of weird out there, kind of, it wasn't even quite EDM, but it was like kind of dark synthy wavy shit. It was really cool. I had forgotten about them completely until the name popped up here. I was like, oh my fucking god, and instantly the eyeliner started going back around my eyes. Fucking the old fishnet top came back on. I might not have the frame to carry it now, but I was like, yes. Yeah, the one thing we never mentioned here is, like, that specific kind of electronic wave of music from the, like, 2010s onwards. I'm thinking groups like Hadouken that me and Dave went to see. There is so much Hadouken on this, it's fucking unbelievable. And that's the backbone. I know they've mentioned Prodigy. I think the Prodigy influence is less on the electronics and more on the dark turns that music takes. It's more tonally than it is musically. They've mentioned Korn. I don't necessarily get a lot of that here either, except in the kind of the breakdown sections vocally. They've mentioned, like, Slipknot vocal styles. I will put it this way, I actually think he's got a better voice than Corey Taylor on the screams. He's got a real kind of, there's a lot of kind of, for lack of a better word, blackened, like, elements all the way fucking through this. Like, it's like blackened cyber black. That's what we're calling it.
Yeah.
Like, neo-burn churches. That is literally what this is. So that's what I kind of got. And also, like, bits of things like Enter Shikari, but Enter Shikari are one of those bands that existed around that time where social media was starting to pick up YouTube and people were getting into music videos where bands were doing things a bit quirky. One big thing I'll say is, would never in a million years have picked America for this band. I would have said England, because I think his clean voice sounds English. And he's got a weird kind of English tone. So, is he American born? That is the question that someone will post in that. Well, he's all right, governor. He's like got something inherently English. And I've been in England for the last couple of days, so something inherently English in his singy voice, not in his streamy voice. That's a Norwegian born in a church. So, let's talk about this. Oh my, there's so much going on, right? And that's like, I think to the lesser mind, that's right, I'm just going to shoot down any possible arguments you've got by saying you're not smart enough. To the lesser mind, this is like listening to, like, Pale Dusk on, like, double speed. Like, you get, like, everything flung at you, and the transitions are not always the smoothest on this, and nor should they be. They're, I think, deliberately glitchy to kind of fit in with the tone that they've got. Now, one of the facts I knew about this, because you'd mentioned it in advance, which saved me, like, having 100 questions before we started, was the fact that this is mostly digital. So like, we've just been on a review where Dave moaned about the drums being synthetic. Like, hopefully that won't appear here, because he's put it in the press up front and it's on brand, Dave.
Yeah. I don't think there's a guitar on this, to be honest.
No. This is synthetic guitar.
This is all electronic.
Yeah, 100% synthetic guitar. Yeah. Which, once again, kind of like mega praise them, because I love that. The guitar sounds like there's a band called Deadsy. I love Deadsy. Their guitarist, what was his name again? Carlton Bost, played it was a Zetar. A Zetar is a keyboard guitar. Other bands have played them as well. I think probably the biggest selling artist who did it in the alternative world is Pendulum. Pendulum plays Zetars. It's basically a synthesizer, but it's controlled like a guitar. That's what I originally thought this was, but the further you get into it, the more you realise it's a sample. Or it's a sound that's been digitally modified to make it sound like a distorted guitar, possibly put through a pedal or whatever.
So I watched a couple of live videos. They've got a guy basically with which looks like a keytar doing all that stuff live, basically.
Right, so maybe it is a Z-tar then, or like an actual keytar, like keys.
I think so. I think it was.
Right, cool. Well, that's once again makes me appreciate them even more. And so they're doing it live, which once again, fucking love that idea. So right now that I've got all that out of the way, so basically this is all one man with his time in front of keyboards and samplers and like a microphone and all the rest. Let's take a step back and talk about the music. One influence I didn't mention, and one that I was kind of excited about because I always thought there's a. It's no surprise to you, so you'll get this straight away. There is an artist called Cell Dweller, who I fucking adore. We reviewed, like, I think it was his second album, Wish Upon a Black Star.
Yeah.
On the old site, so maybe 2012 or something, like ages and ages ago. And I remember being like so high. I still am on that album. I go back every now and again, listen to it. I think it's a fucking work of art. And I remember my written review at the time basically said, you know, like, for a generation, albums like a Downward Spiral or a Monumental Movement in industrial and electronic kind of alternative or metal music, and Wish Upon a Black Star, I was calling it then, will have that effect, and then no one fucking copied it. Literally called nothing. There's elements of that. His label, Fixed, F-I-X-T. There's a lot of artists on here that are not too dissimilar to Blind Equation. In terms of that kind of full-on electronic basis to everything with someone doing vocals over the top. So, you know, it kind of feels like Prosthetic makes sense when you listen to how aggressive and disjointed it is. At the same time, it could possibly be on a label like that and be on the more extreme end. I realise I've still not talked about the music. So, where to fucking begin? I love the synth work on this. Like, absolutely fucking adore the synth work on this. He has about 6 sounds, which, like, you get, like, all the credit in the world from me if you have 6 sounds and that's all you use for your whole album, as opposed to, I have a possible of 40 sounds I can use, so I must use them all. No. It becomes too disjointed. Like, there is essentially certain sounds he uses are used as kind of arpeggiators, and they're only used as arpeggiators on tracks. Other ones are used specifically for kind of bass low end stuff. He'll only ever use that tone for that. So it's almost like each synth sound is its own instrument, which might sound novel, but that's what a synthesizer is supposed to be. It's supposed to be synthesizing an instrument. So they all have their own thing. So if you didn't know, listening to this, you would think that maybe there was 4 or 5 people involved with the writing of this music. He has a clear line between using like absolutely disgusting black metal screams, kind of more aggressive kind of new metal-y screams, and this kind of, you've taken everything. He's like the boys. That's what he is. That's who he is. He's fucking, what's his tits from the boys? Oh, sunshine. You know what I mean? He's there's that kind of tone that he brings in when he sings is very Enter Shikari. So you get like kind of 3 versions of his voice, and all of them are really fucking good, and he knows when to use them. When the melody kicks in, it's usually through a swath of either blistering kind of drum blast beats, but like really smooth shoegazy synths, or just whole bits of ambience. When he needs to do the heavy vocals, they're never really done over an overtly clean bit. So once again, smart. Yeah. There is drum and bass on this. There's a bit of garage. There's EDM. There's fucking black metal. There is grindcore. There is like it's industrial to fuck. And he blends it in such an interesting way. The first listen I got to the end of it, and it was that kind of just like because it is so like all the tracks have like single length runtime apart from the closing track, which is called ironically Incomplete. And I was like, that right, maybe this doesn't work over 6 minutes. Totally fucking works over 6 minutes, by the way, because that closing track's fucking brilliant. So it's like, man, you get like moments through this that just deliver. It's hard to describe. It's honestly, it's one of the more difficult things. We should never have picked this. The two of us just be like flinning. It's like, it's not something that I can't pick one song here and say it sounds like this. Yeah. It's like it sounds like 100 things in a blender, but it's a nice tasting smoothie you get at the end. You know, it's not something like I wish I hadn't put paprika in it. You know, it's like it works. And to me, just when I think I've heard everything, just when I think I'm on the cusp of really getting to the point where I almost think industrial music really has to go out of its way. I know they're saying they're not industrial music, it's kind of industrial. When that genre really has to do, Health have to release an album to make me go, holy fucking shit, the game has changed again. You know what I mean? Eureka, we found a new, like the.
Yeah.
I like, and that's the genre I adored for like the longest time, and very few bands surprise me there now because I kind of feel like I've done it all. It's the same way when I watch a horror movie, I can predict where the scares are. You've been in a cinema with me, I can usually predict the ending as well, and I can tell you how it's going to happen before the movie finishes. I'm like, I've just been through a lot of it, and then you put like an album like this on, and this had me guessing all the way to the end, and then on the re-listen, and then the re-listen, then the re-listen. Then the re-listen, every time I come back to it, I kind of fall in love with other parts of it. Like other parts of songs stand out as much more prominent. Bits that were maybe subtle on the first listen become actually the linchpin of the entire song. Creatively, it is just... It's really... The only thing I can like kind of really fully describe it to is a listening experience for me where I was like that. This is a singular vision formed and released in a way where you kind of just have to sit back and even if you don't like the music, you have to remark on how fucking great it is. We reviewed that, what was the black metal musician a couple of months ago, the solo guy who kind of gothy, black metal-y stuff. What was his name? The album was all like romantic and goth. Had a pink cover. And you're thinking, I'll look it up, I'll hand it over to you. But it reminded me of that because it was like, I think his story was the entire band left. You know, he went back home, he got the guitar out and he just started writing shit and he got ill while he was writing it and all the rest.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? And he just put everything's in there. So much so that we remarked that he was coughing. Yeah, and I was like, is that a gimmick? Sure. Like, but there was something about like you could literally feel the release was everything. That like everything he had to that project was delivered. That's kind of what a Funeral in Purgatory to me is. It feels like someone getting it all out, like almost manically at times, trying to get everything down on the page so like they can rest, they can be at peace. So yeah, I like this. To me, front to back is just a tour de fucking force. I've said it before, I will say it again. I hate the name of the band. Like, it makes no sense. Is like, you know what is the most new metal thing about them? You know what I mean? Like, they don't really sound new metal. I know they're evoking influences there. The most new metal thing about them is Blind Equation, because that sounds like a band I could have listened to in '97. You know what I mean? It could be like, you don't understand Blind Equation, man. You know what I mean? Like that. The equation can't see, so you can't see its numbers and trickiness. Yeah, like if this was an equation, Dave, this would be E equals absolutely fucks. In brackets. Yeah, I thought this was fucking brilliant. Like, absolutely brilliant. Like, musically, I think it almost operates on a different level than a lot of things. And I've grown up into my just give me everything on an album. Like, this is the phase I'm going through right now. It's the same way I've started wearing sandals when it's hot. I'm never a sandals guy, you know what I mean? Like, I have a pair of cheap sandals now that I wear when it's too warm in the house. I've entered that phase. Cheap sandals and everything in music all at once. Everything everywhere all at once is like, if that movie was a soundtrack, that's this. It's great. It's great. But like I say, and I'm not trying to preempt anything because I think you probably like this more than I think you like it. I will say, if you're not accustomed to very quick changes and like very full on direct kind of like that EDM sort of stuff, specifically that kind of like if you weren't listening to bands around the time of like Hadouken and stuff like that, you don't like that sort of stuff, this is going to be sensory fucking overload for you. And that's fine. That's fine. It kind of weirdly exists in its own little smaller bubble of bands. So how did you get on with The Equation That Can't See?
I'm a big grindcore fan. Like, I fucking love grindcore.
Interesting you've come in on this side, right? Let's go. Like, right. There's me talking about like EDM and all the rest, and Dave's like, let me tell you a little story about a genre called grindcore.
Huge fan, Duncan. Give me all the Pig Destroyers, all the worm rots, all the
Oh.
nasums,
Oh,
giving them all the brutal truths, the lot.
give Dave all of them.
Love it. I'm also like, I'd say over the last, I don't know, 10 years, maybe less, I've started to appreciate much more on the electronic and industrial side. There was always certain bands that I enjoyed that I would be like, bands like Hadouken and stuff, be like, yep, totally dig that, into it. And then there'd be other parts where we're like, I just don't get that at all.
Only took 26 years of me badgering you and chiseling you down.
Yeah, and I think like my tastes have definitely kind of expanded over the last wee while. However, Cybergrind was never a genre I really.
Is it a genre? Like, is
Yeah,
there?
it
Can
is.
we name another? Is there?
It is, yeah. So this goes way back, by the way. This Cybergrind thing goes way back.
Right, I'd like to
fact-
have some homework to fucking do.
In fact, Duncan, I'll give you a little trip down memory lane right
Oh,
now.
here we go. I was in a cyber grind, but you didn't know I was a keyboard player as well.
For those of you that don't know, Duncan and I were in a band many moons ago.
Like so long ago that Dave had hair and my hair was black.
Yes, yes.
So long ago that Dave had hair and I shaved my head. So that's how long ago that was.
We flipped that fucking script. We played with loads of local bands, but we also had the opportunity to support kind of bigger bands when they came to Scotland. You know, some bigger tours. We played with a band from way back from Melbourne. They were called the Berzerker.
Are they cyber grind?
So apparently so. Apparently they were classed as Cybergrind.
Right, I don't know. Well,
I'm
not going to argue it.
If you'd asked me back then, I'd said like industrial. But
Yeah, that's the way I was leaning. But
apparently, if you have a look on the old internet, apparently they were classed in that group of. So it goes like back for a long period.
and I'm on brand here because I said to you, this to me seems like industrial. So that
Yeah.
I'm keeping on brand. Like I'm Berzerker's industrial, this is industrial, but I'm being semantic, right? So it goes way back.
Way back, Duncan. Way back. However, I mean, this is me just kind of finding out about it now in 2025. However, Blind Equation, yeah, I suppose they do fit into that category of Cybergrind. So what I did was with this band, I'd heard that single, I didn't listen to anything else. I went back and I checked out their 2 previous albums before.
See, I've not done that because unlike you do, I never go back in time until after the review.
Right.
And then sometimes I still don't go back in time. I see I'm gonna. I'll be honest. Let's break the fourth wall here. I'm like that. Yeah, I'm totally gonna go back, and then I just don't do it.
No.
Not enough time, Dave.
The old stuff, Duncan. Oh, like this was more extreme. Like the old stuff.
So this is the commercial release.
Yes, this is like the old stuff was like blast beats over a Nintendo 64 game. That's like what we got on the old stuff. It was very glitchy, like lots of heavy like chiptune, like just very extreme. And on that was like the first album was very much like that. On the second album, you could hear like there was a slight shift, where there was a bit more of a focus on the kind of grindcore kind of elements. You know, the song lengths were a bit tighter. It was like getting more visceral vocally, and it was like this kind of constant kind of barrage of sound. Obviously, still heavily laden with like synths and electronics and noise, but did feel like a touch more extreme overall. What wasn't a huge lover of the production of the last album. It was
too synthetic for you.
Acquired taste, is what I would say. This album seems like it's taken a step further into expanding this Blind Equation sound, pushing the boundaries even more, not just on the extreme side, but on the kind of opposite end of that, bringing in more melody and more atmosphere. Also, this is the first album with clean vocals.
Ah, interesting.
So this was not a part of the previous 2 releases. This to me is like if Stranger Things did like a grindcore soundtrack. It would be like something along this line. It's
Oh god.
it's weirdly like it's weirdly their most accessible album, right? And it's not even that accessible. But as far as this band goes, this is the one that's probably the easiest to digest out of the three. And I'm really glad that I went into this album having heard the previous two releases, because it kind of prepared me for this album and made it less overwhelming than it would have been if I'd just gone straight in raw. This one for me was much more kind of fluently tied together, and I think a big part of that is the fact that he's given it more balance kind of musically.
What did he say in the press statement? They toured.
Yes,
and he's written this based on the reactions he got, which is like that's what you do. Like when you're a solo musician, that's what you do.
Yeah. So yeah, he had kind of brought in a couple of guys to do live shows with. There's like a drummer and a guy on like a kind of guitar type thing, and then the main guy is doing like all
be the drummer in this band.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So for this one, I felt like it wasn't as heavily stacked in one area. So like even when the album like just like obliterates your eardrums with like digital blast beats and these really like crushing synth tones, there's more often than not some sort of kind of melody in the synths or a transition into something softer or slower, and that for me made this much more kind of palatable. I think I like the fact he's kind of been open to kind of expanding the length of some of the songs on this, just building a section up rather than it just being like a fucking flashbang grenade going off and then it's on to the next track. There's some really nice use of there's a lot of 80s synths on this.
Yeah.
That's obviously I was referencing the Stranger Things there, but you've also got things like drum and bass loops on tracks like A Funeral, where they take a bit more time. They give you something to hold on to, which I felt was lacking before. Like there was so much happening and it was so fast. You were just like, what the fuck did I even listen to? But here there are more kind of hooks and more kind of motifs that you're like, all right, okay, you're able to kind of stick with it easier. But then there are also parts where the track drops into an explosion of 300 BPM drums and screams. Some of this actually reminded me a lot of kind of early kind of Genghis Tron in parts.
Yeah.
Had that sort of like kind of chaotic temperament to it. This is more modern, obviously, and heavier on the electronics than they were like back then on the early stuff. They've now gone like full electronic, but
they're like all in.
Yeah, but you can hear similar characteristics on this album. And the electronic parts, I must say, are really well done in this. It's not an album that really repeats itself all that much, with the same kind of structures and stuff. It's always changing. Every track has something, its own personality, or a feature to make it kind of stand out. But they also feel like very tethered together at the same time. So there is that kind of sense of cohesion to the album. The clean vocals, though. This is obviously something different, and it's a really nice touch on the album. I don't think they're overused at all. So like fans of the old stuff be like, oh shit, they're going commercial. Like that's not the case. It's like occasional chorus here and there. Which
I don't think you can be accused of like selling out if you're on Prosthetic Records. Nah. It's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. But yeah, those little moments just kind of elevate things, and for me made it more memorable. This is like, although I'm not like experienced in the world of Cybergrind, it's a difficult genre to create hooks with, because there's so much going on. But I think that vocal melody helped focus that hook on the album, and even like when it's not like necessarily a big hook, I think it does add something extra to the album. There's a lot of pop and kind of R&B kind of rap kind of traits in the vocals that shouldn't generally work as well as they do on this, but I thought the vocals, the clean vocals, were actually really nice on the release. I also like the fact that for an album that's filled with grind techniques, I mean, we've said already that I don't think there's any kind of any real kind of electric guitar on this. I think it is all kind of synth generated, but like it's weird though, because when they do decide to get heavy and kind of menacing in parts, there's a kind of like what you would class like a breakdown at the end of track 2, I think it is. But it's all synths that are doing the work, like, and it still sounds really heavy.
I think we've crossed into that point where like deathcore bands and stuff like that have they've generated such computerized versions of guitar sims that we're just used to it now. So if you want to swap that out, as long as it's kind of sounds like, looks like, sniffs like, and kind of slaps like a kind of guitar sound, you kind of just go with it. Those bits where they're completely synced up and quantized for that punch, bits where like bow, bah, 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 like those bits are great. They're not too dissimilar to that last fucking Fear Factory album where everything was like bah, 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 like it's the same thing. It's just people like guitarists use like fucking gates and God knows what else and computers. So they're at least being authentic with it and just going, you know what I mean? Although I will give you a laugh, I saw a video last night and I was like, if Dave had known about this, it would have been a different world. I saw a drummer, recording his, I think the start, and this is, trust me, it pays off and it'll be worth the runtime of this video. In his home studio, I think he had to be quiet or something. There was like something about like a newborn baby or whatever. So he had a keyboard, and he put it was 2 bits of sellotape and string on 2 keys, and then tied the string to his like big toe. Right, so every time he put his foot down, put the key down, and that was the bass drums.
Right.
So he was basically going, bah, 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 bah. It's like fucking like tapping his feet on the ground, and it was doing the bass drum hits using the keys, and then he was playing the rest of the drums with his fingers. I was like, had Dave known that, he'd have saved himself thousands on techie gear.
Yeah.
Who needs it, Dave? You can do everything with a keyboard.
Yeah. Couple of toes, bit of string. That's all we need. Yeah, I mean, this one kind of surprised me. I think it's an album I'm definitely to be in the right mood for. I don't think it's one I'd be like, right, just sticking it on any old time.
If you've got a report to write and it's urgent, like, do not put this on. Like, you're going to be drifted off a lot.
And I mean, I liked the single I heard, and I wasn't sure like how I would kind of feel with a full album of it, but actually I really enjoyed this. I'd say, like, listening to the 3 albums they've done, I'd probably say this is probably the best one they've done so far, for me anyway. So final thing, scores for Blind Equation and A Funeral in Purgatory. What are you thinking?
This review is the length of the album, and I am coming in at I'm giving this a 5. I genuinely love this. I literally, honestly, there's not a second of this I dislike.
Nice.
I think it's unbelievably written. I think it's layered like perfectly. And with everything going on in this one, the fact he can balance this is just the same way that even if you don't like Ishan, if you listen to that last album, you hear how he just like had everything going. You're like, that. How did he get the balance of all those instruments? I'm kind of like that here. There's so much going on, but it's never distracting. It all fits. It's all in the pocket. And the creativity is just, it's one guy. It's mind-blowing for me. And this is completely on brand. This is the sort of stuff at the moment, just give me buckets of this. I absolutely love it. Yeah, I'm fucking, I'm not going to say the easiest 5 I've ever given it, but it's a fucking 5. So
nice. Yeah, I mean, this is not like a Dave album, per se.
Really?
But I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was gonna. As I said, I'd probably need to be in the right headspace to listen to it. But yeah, I managed to kind of digest this a lot easier than I thought I would. For me, it's a 4. But like, as I said, it's not my usual kind of genre or style. But yeah, enjoyable and very well done. Interested to hear like what happens next with this. Like, where does the sound develop to or go after this album? Unsure, but interested to find out. Okay, so that is the new album from Blind Equation, A Funeral in Purgatory, out on July 18th on Prosthetic Records. Check out the links, have a listen to the band, the pre-orders there as well to check out. Let us know what you think. That is our review. Thanks for checking out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
You've taken every